The ball never landed there.
10 minutes in the bin for Clemmer.
That's not where the ball landed.
No, it landed, I thought, more 10 metres off centre.
Field goal.
Let's have a look here.
The ball landed out near the 20-metre line.
Good Friday is here and Accor Stadium is about to erupt. This is one of the biggest games of the regular NRL season fixture list. The South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. The Good Friday clash between these two elite rugby league clubs has been embedded into rugby league folklore. They have given us memorable moments, whether that be the 2014 Grand Final or James Graham's infamous pointing at Gerard Sutton after a very controversial penalty given in the final moments to the South Sydney Rabbitohs when Adam Reynolds won a game that the South Sydney Rabbitohs, in my opinion, did not deserve. What I can guarantee you is this is two of the most passionate fan bases in rugby league. They will be turning up in numbers. This crowd averages around 40,000 every year since this clash was introduced in 2012. This match is one that neither fan will want to lose, but neither team can afford to lose. Let's talk about the Good Friday clash between the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs and the South Sydney Rabbitohs. If you are new, make sure that you do subscribe. We're on our way to 2,000 footlongs. Let's try and get there before Easter Sunday concludes. We're well on our way. We're only 20 subscriptions away. So if you can help us reach that milestone, I'd really appreciate it. But let's get back to the video. This is a big game. Last year, the Bulldogs were ruthless 32-0 winners against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. They did not give the boys from Redfern a chance to breathe. But this is a different Bulldogs outfit based on what we've seen in the first 3 rounds of the NRL season. The Bulldogs are coming off a 2-1 start. South Sydney equally a 2-1 start. They had the bye last week. So this is a game that neither team can afford to lose. For the South Sydney Rabbitohs, you're coming off a bye, and after having a victory before that bye, you'll want to build some momentum. For the Bulldogs, you want to quiet down the noise. There's so much conjecture around the halves, around the spine, around their lack of points, around Lachlan Galvin and Matt Burton, and whether Matt Burton will be a Bulldog beyond 2026. You quieten all that noise down with a victory. Wins make everything feel better. So let's get into the stats and stay tuned to the end because I'm going to tell you who I think is going to win. And no, I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to look at the data and I'm going to explain my logic in just a moment. So head to head, this rivalry has been tight and it's been brutal. If we look at last year, as I mentioned earlier, the Bulldogs ran out 32-0 winners against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And then last year, Bulldogs came up twice, beating the Rabbitohs in a much tighter contest, 24-18. In round 15. In 2024, the Rabbitohs beat the Bulldogs in this Good Friday clash 20 points to 16. But then the Bulldogs had 23. The Rabbitohs and the Bulldogs shared a win apiece. Bulldogs have won the last 3 of the last 5 clashes. So they do go in to this game with a little bit of a psychological advantage, if you do want to call it that. These games average around 34 points, especially over the last 5 games. So they do tend to be higher scoring. I think that there is an opportunity for points to be scored. I just don't know if it's going to be by both sides or by one side. I'll elaborate in just a moment. So let's talk about the key statistics heading into this game for both sides. South Sydney averaging 26 points a game. They've already scored 78 points over 3 games, a really impressive return. So they come in with confidence, especially coming after a last start win. For the Bulldogs, they're averaging 15 points a game in their opening 3 matches. Not ideal, and they're in the bottom half of the NRL in that regard. So this is a game of attack versus defense. I think it's obvious the Rabbitohs have more points in them, but the Bulldogs' defense does hold strong, and they have continued to do so. Outside of the Newcastle Knights game where they conceded 5 tries, they had their opening 2 games where they only conceded a total of 4 tries. If we look at last year, the Bulldogs were the best defensive record. Most of this squad is unchanged. So this is a game of attack versus defense. But who wins when attack versus defense? Here is the key players who I think are ultimately going to decide the game. But it will ultimately be down to a key Cameron Ciraldo change. Meters usually win Good Friday clashes. I think whoever wins the middle will win the game. Particularly in these passionate type games, because it does open up, it is quite emotional from the fans, which infiltrates through to the players. Key matchups head ahead, Stephen Crichton versus Latrell Mitchell. I'm asking Cameron Ciraldo to do one key thing. Move Stephen Crichton to right centre. Do not put Tawala against Latrell Mitchell. Do not limit Stephen Crichton's capability by shoehorning him on the left-hand side. Move Stephen Crichton over to the right and let these two giants of the game go head-to-head. If you're one of the best players in your position, this is what you crave. You want to prove yourself against the best. Give the fans what they want and give Stephen Crichton the freedom and the capability to perform to his best, and I know that Latrell Mitchell is going to be up for it on the left-hand side. Stephen Crichton leads with consistency, he makes meters, defense, but crucially his leadership. There's no doubt of Stephen Crichton being the spiritual leader of the Bulldogs on top of being the captain. When Stephen Crichton speaks, the Bulldogs players listen. When Stephen Crichton performs, the Bulldogs tend to win rugby league games. For Latrell Mitchell, he brings a more explosive style. He's had a strong start to the year. The battle of the forwards will be key to this game. Harry Hayes returns for the Bulldogs, a big in and much needed size. But the Bulldogs pack last week struggled against the Newcastle Knights. The Bulldogs made the meters, but in terms of that quick play the ball, it just wasn't there. There wasn't a player who had an average play the ball speed of above 3 seconds. Now that's really important because it does talk about getting momentum in key moments. The Bulldogs, granted, did have their opportunities to win the game against the Newcastle Knights, but against a South Sydney pack that I think is quite big and physical, they're really going to need to find a way to get their momentum going in the middle. And that's where Bailey Hayward is key. So far this season, Bailey Hayward has been very much a passing the ball off the deck. And again, I don't want to be critical. I like Bailey Hayward. I think he's a really good rugby league player. But I think he's struggling to transition into this number 9 position and make it his own. For the South Sydney Rabbitohs, though, you've got a lot of size. You've got Keown, you've got Fafita, you've got Cameron Murray, you've got Tavita Totola. You've just got this big, strong physical pack who are capable of creating all sorts of havoc on the edges and through the middle. So, who wins this rugby league game? I hate to say it, but I think the Rabbitohs are going to get the chocolates. Easter pun intended. I think the Bulldogs are going to try hard. I think they'll come out motivated, but that's never been the issue for the Bulldogs. They do try hard. They are motivated. They defend well and with courage. But the ultimate problem is I just am struggling to see where this Bulldogs attack scores points. I'll be first to say I'm happy if the Bulldogs go on to win this game, but I just think Souths are going to have too many points in them for the Bulldogs side. Especially if Cameron Ciraldo sustains Stephen Crichton at left centre, Tawala on the right, Matt Burton and Lachlan Galvin in the halves. If that is what goes out, then I think the Bulldogs are going to lose. Sean O'Sullivan and Bronson Xerri have been named on the bench. If Sean O'Sullivan is named at halfback and one of Burton or Galvin is the 6, and you move Crichton over to the right and you put Xerri over to the left or Burton to centre, I think that then I'd be more lenient towards the Bulldogs because I think that that's a more balanced attacking team. I think that's a more strong attacking lineup. And I think that Sean O'Sullivan will get the ball to where it needs to go. Personally, Cameron Ciraldo should make a brave decision and drop Matt Burton. I'd bring Bronson Xerri back in because I think Bronson Xerri is a better centre than Matt Burton. But that's a conversation for another day. With all that being said, I don't think Ciraldo is going to make the changes that we expect. I hope I'm wrong on that. But if he sticks with the 1 to 17 that he's named, I'm going to say South Sydney by 14 points. There you have it. There's my preview. What do you think? If you're a Bulldogs fan, will the Bulldogs win? Do you expect changes? If you're a Rabbitohs fan, are you confident heading into this game? Enjoy your rugby league. Happy Easter and get out of here.